What's good, everybody? We are live and back in the studio right now for episode 2, episode dos. I'm sitting down today because we're recording this at night, and your boy's a little lazy to stand up right now. So excuse me for not standing at the standing desk, but we're still in studio 2. So I hope you guys enjoy the show. We got a lot to get through today, so why don't we just hop right in? No messing around. All right. First topic, as we start out normally, Anuj's vibes. How's he doing? How's our boy doing? Honestly, I've been doing pretty good. This last week has been pretty chaotic. There's been a lot going on related to the podcast, related to just other things. So I feel like I haven't really had much time. Also, the Wimbledon championships have been going on. For those of you that are tennis fans, I've been absolutely enjoying waking up in the morning, drinking my coffee, and watching some tennis. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm going to miss it when it goes away this Sunday because the final's happening this Sunday. Anyway, that's besides the point. But honestly, the vibes have been good, and I really genuinely have nothing to complain about. And that's kind of where I'm at when it comes to my vibes. When it comes to what I've been thinking about recently, I've been thinking about quite a bit. There's a couple thoughts that I want to get out there for you. The first one is how to become great. That's something I've been thinking about recently a lot. And what I mean by that is that I feel like athletes chase, like when you become an athlete and when you get drafted to the NFL or the NBA or whatever it is, you are chasing the best in your sport, right? Whether if it's tennis, you're chasing Djokovic, Rafa, Federer. If it's basketball, you're chasing Michael Jordan. You're chasing LeBron James. If you're a shooter in basketball, Steph Curry, right? If you're in football, you're chasing Brady in Montana. Like, you want to be the best. You want to be known as the best player at your sport. That's a fact. And I think as people, like as a normal everyday person, I'm just curious to who chases who? Like, what are we chasing? Are we chasing anything? Like, I get like people chase obviously like in their different professions, like if you're a businessman, you want to chase Steve Jobs, right? Or a businesswoman, you want to chase Sheryl Sandberg or something. Sorry, it took me that long to come up with a big tech person who's a woman, but that just proves my point that proves the point that there's not enough women representation, female representation in tech. Anyway, I'm just thinking about like who are we chasing? Who am I chasing? Am I chasing Alex Cooper and Joe Rogan? I don't know. Like, I don't know who I'm chasing. So that's just an interesting thought that I've been having recently. The second thought that I've been having is, it's a pretty obvious thought. I'll give it that. But it's this whole idea that like we are like not everybody is going to be happy when you are chasing success. And what I mean by that is like, you may be able to hit the mountaintop, but there's always going to be some portion of the population, whether it be people you don't know in terms of social media, or whether it be like your own immediate people that aren't happy with what you're doing. I feel like that's just a fact. I feel like that happens with everybody. I mean, all the famous people that I hear, all the people that have succeeded in their various fields talk about how there's people who don't like them, regardless of what they do. And I mean, I guess that's what a hater is. But I've just been thinking about that and just like, where do haters come from? Where does that whole hater vibe come from? How does it get there? Why does it exist? A lot of very interesting conversation topics surrounding that. And the last major thing that I've been feeling the last few days in this past week is overall feeling of like tiredness. It's not like the whole like, Olivia Rodrigo like breakup tired, it's more of that like just general physical fatigue. And I've been trying things, I wake up early relatively. My sleep schedule, I've been trying to adjust that. I understand I'm recording this at like 10:40 at night, but I've been trying to adapt my sleep schedule. I've been trying to be better with that. I've been trying to be better with just, being like more attentive. And I also, go work out and do other things and drink a lot of coffee. But I feel like I just physically felt tired the last few days. And I was wondering if there's just things that you guys do to not be tired all the time. And I would just be curious to know what those things are because I am feeling tired and I would like to not be tired. So if you guys have any advice, feel free to let me know and shoot me a comment, a DM, whatever it may be. I would be happy to listen. So anyway, that's all I have with the personal update this week. Before we get into the next topic, though, just quickly reminder, follow me on Instagram. Socials are all linked down below. Feel free to check it out. Should be a lot of fun. Yeah. And I also post all my content, all the updates, clips, etc., on there. So I hope you guys do follow me, subscribe to the channel, like the video. You know the deal. I'm not going to repeat myself for the 1900th time. Do what you got to do. That's all I'll say. And let's transition to this. Our sports topic for the day, the NCAA and their endorsements. This was something that popped up last week in the headlines. It was a major headline in the sporting world. And for those of you that don't know, the NCAA recently announced that athletes at any level competing within the NCAA, whether it be Division I, Division II, or Division III, can profit off of their personal brand, which is something that they weren't necessarily allowed to do earlier. Meaning that they weren't allowed to sell their autographs or do have sponsorships or brand deals in college. But once, if they went professional or whatever it is, they could, expand on that opportunity and build themselves out a nice career with endorsements. But now they're able to kind of start earlier. And I think this is not only a W for the players, but it's a W for everybody. And let me explain kind of my take on this whole thing. I think it's a win for the players, number one, because I think it's a win for the players because, well, I mean, it's obvious. If you're a top-ranked recruit, if you are a top-ranked player in basketball, football, volleyball, tennis, brands are after you. It doesn't matter. If you're the best in college, people are going to be after you no matter what. That's just the fact, right? It's a fact in any profession. If you're the top at any profession, they're going to be after you. And so and for them, they don't have to worry. They can finally capitalize on all this money that they could have been making earlier. And now college athletes can capitalize on that, especially the ones who are the top of the game. But I think it's more beneficial for the athletes who are kind of in the middle or towards the bottom. And I was thinking about this earlier. I was like, initially, I was with this whole idea that, this is only going to benefit the real top people, right? The ones who people really, care about. But the thing is about the NCAA is that it's across this country. It just doesn't, we may see college football rest with Alabama and Clemson and Ohio State, but college football and college basketball and college sports happen from Northern California to Northern Maine. And that's just a fact. And you as a player may not be popular amongst the nation because you're not getting that coverage, but you may be popular within your small community in Fargo, North Dakota, playing at North Dakota State, which is, has the best Division I AA football team in the NCAA. I mean, at that point, you can profit off your name locally. You can use local brand deals. You can talk with local companies in North Dakota. You can be partnering with all sorts of different brands within your region, and you could be selling autographs to people who actually care about you. You can exploit your brand on not exploit. That's a negative term, but you can spread your brand at a micro level and a macro level. Look, you may not be, I'm not saying every player is macro popular. That's not true. Yeah, I mean, if to get exposed to the macro audience, you have to go to a big school and you have to be a big talent. Not everybody is that. And that's just a fact. And in the NCAA, it's a widespread organization with different divisions. And the point is, these athletes who are playing Division I AA, Division II, Division III, may be popular in their local market because in a lot of these, Midwestern and Southern towns, oftentimes in the middle of nowhere, there's no real sports teams to root for professionally. So you got to root for the college teams, and they may be popular at the local level. And so they can take advantage of these micro brand deal partnerships that in the grand scheme of things may not be a big deal, but to a college student who's broke and can't pay their bills, it's a huge fucking deal. So I 100% think that this supports not only the higher ranked NCAA players, but the lower ranked ones. And I think this is a win for agents, obviously, because they can, agents and publicists can get to athletes faster, which is something that they've been trying to do for years through shady bagmen. But now they can just, openly do business. And I think this is a win for the NCAA in general, or the NCAA consumer in general, not the NCAA, but the NCAA consumer, because oftentimes, you see NCAA fans complain about, it's the same 4 teams in the college basketball playoffs, in the college football playoffs. There's no parity. But now players can make a brand, particularly the top ranked players, the ones that are most highly coveted, don't necessarily need a big school like Kentucky or Duke or North Carolina to make a brand out of themselves, because they can use themselves to make the brand. So they can go wherever the fuck they want, whether that be the G League, whether that be Temple University, whether that be fucking Quinnipiac. It doesn't matter. They can go wherever they want to go. And that's just the facts. Truly, that was weird. But I mean, it's true that they can go wherever they want to go and profit off their own brand, particularly if you're a bigger player. If you're a smaller player and you get the opportunity to go to Kentucky, you're still going to do it, right? Because it gives you more exposure. But as a bigger player, you can still go wherever you want, but also take your brand with you and monetize off yourself, which I think creates parity within the NCAA. And suddenly you're going to see more programs be established throughout the country and be more equalized, rather than all the top ranked recruits going to Kentucky for exposure and, potential brand deals after. But those are my thoughts on the NCAA and sports. And I think that's a major W. But the next topic we're going to be talking about is an absolute major L, unfortunately. And I think 2 straight weeks on this show, we've talked negative in music, and for the second straight week, it's going to be more negatives. I know you probably are seeing the headline. It says vaccines aren't that cool. This is not an anti-vax topic. I'm making that very clear. We are pro-vaccine on this podcast, at least last I checked. Go get your vaccines if you haven't already. Anyway, this topic is about the new Logic song that came out last Friday, or late Thursday night for us on the West Coast. And I gotta say, man, I was really disappointed with this song. It's called Vaccine. For those of you that haven't listened, it's on all streaming platforms. You can go ahead and check it out and let me know what you think. But I thought Logic, when he came back, was coming back with a different style. I thought he was going to come back with that similar style that he left with No Pressure. I think he left on such a high note. I was such a big fan of No Pressure. But to see that he is coming out with a song like Vaccine, which, I mean, the first word I think of when I think of this song, Vaccine, is disgusting. It was truly not very good. The chorus seemed like a really poor man's badly copied mumble rap verse. It wasn't good. The chorus was tacky. The verses, I thought initially the verses went kind of hard, and the raps were good. But even I went back to the verses, and it's very like simplistic rhymes. It's not that catchy. He's trying to do something, I feel like, where he's trying to go into another lane, which I respect as an artist. I respect him trying to grow and trying to, make party music and shit, and that's cool. But I don't necessarily like the fact that he is I don't necessarily like the fact that he's going back to things that he has admitted in the past haven't really worked for him, and things that he's admitted. And he keeps talking about in interviews, I feel like, with Logic, like he keeps talking about how he wants to talk about real shit and rap about real shit. And he did that on No Pressure. That's what I felt like when I was listening to No Pressure. I was listening to Logic. I was listening to true and authentic Logic. I feel like this is just some like plastered down version of Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. This is what this song felt like. And Confessions of a Dangerous Mind to me was it wasn't a horrible album. It wasn't a great album. And I didn't like the style that he was going for, but I still respect Logic nonetheless. Don't get me wrong. I respect Logic for the style. I am just not a personal fan of this style. If you are, give me your reasons why you like this song, Vaccine. But honestly, I did not like it. And that's why I said vaccines aren't that cool, because not all vaccines are that cool. The real vaccines are cool. Just the Logic vaccine, I mean, I don't know what the efficacy rates on that are. Shit, I think, dude, I may get blood clotting with the Logic vaccine, honestly. But if you guys disagree with me, feel free to tell me why I'm wrong. But I did not like this Logic song. And as a huge Logic fan, for those of you that know me, I am a big Logic fan. I was a big Logic fan through high school, even through college. No Pressure was, a hit different. I really wish that he comes to the Bay Area and I can go see him in concert. And he does all No Pressure, and if he performs Vaccine, I'll just feel free to exit for a little bit, and then I'll come back because he'll play No Pressure stuff. But that's what I have to say on Vaccine. It wasn't a great song. Overall, probably about a 2 out of 10. Is Logic falling off? No, I don't think so. I just think he's experimenting with a different style, which is fine. And I think that's totally okay. But I just hope that his next album is not trending in this direction. There's actually a new song that he said a few hours ago that is coming out this late Thursday night here on the West Coast, Friday on the East, called Get Up. So I'm excited to hear that. Maybe my mind will change. Maybe that song will be really good and we'll forget all about Vaccine. But for now, the bad taste of Vaccine is still in my mouth. So that sucks. But unlike vaccines, and unlike this negativity that I've been releasing on the music topic, I promise I'll put out some more positive content when it comes to music. Let's get into our pop culture segments for the week. And let me transition to this first segment, which is a lot of positivity. And this is an apology to Greta Gerwig. This is what this section is going to be called. For those of you that don't know, Greta Gerwig is a director. She's a film director from Sacramento, Northern California. Represent. Woo. Not the Kings. Fuck the Kings. Warriors are better. But she is from Northern California, and she, 2018, I want to say, didn't drop. It's not an album, but she released the movie Lady Bird. And when I watched this movie for the first time in 2018, I was a senior in high school. So you would think, Anuj is going to love this movie. It's a coming of age film that talks all about his favorite themes, this, that, and the other, and Timothée Chalamet. Oh my God, Timothée Chalamet. I fucking hated this movie in 2018. I hated it. I thought it was so garbage. I thought the pacing was awful. I thought it was going for a coming of age movie, but it really was about nothing. That's what I felt like. I felt like it was just a patched up version of Boyhood. I felt like it was a worse version of Boyhood. And what I didn't realize in 2018 is that this movie actually has a much deeper meaning than just what is on the screen. And I think back then I was just looking for something obvious to wrap my head around, and I couldn't necessarily do that back in 2018. But fast forward a couple of years, here we are in 2021. It was a boring Friday night, and I decided to play Lady Bird and watch it for the second time because I'd low-key forgotten about it. And honestly, wow, I was floored this second time I watched Lady Bird. It's the movie, in one word to probably describe this movie, is exquisite. I mean, I thought I don't watch very many movies, given I'm not a big movie guy. I'm more into TV shows. I know that's a hot take, but this movie it gave me a feeling after watching a movie that I haven't had in a really long time. And I don't really know how to describe that feeling, but it kind of gave me, I couldn't talk after I watched this movie for a few minutes. Like, I had to process what I'd just seen. And it's a really well done movie. And I'm here to say to everybody, this movie is not for everyone. This movie is 100% not for everyone. There are a lot of people on this planet that probably dislike this movie with a passion. And I was one of those people till about 4 days ago. Greta Gerwig did a fantastic job with this movie. I mean, like, the way it is presented, the shots, the cinematography, the story. There's no story. That's the point of this film, is that there's no story. but there are incredible themes throughout the film that if you catch on and you catch on to the characters and you invest yourself within the characters of the movie, you're gonna love what comes at the end. And it's a full circle. That's the best way to describe Lady Bird, is that it goes from one end of the spectrum to another. And I think it wraps up quite nicely. A lot of people don't like the ending, I feel like, but it's such a beautiful ending. I mean, I watched it right before this, just the ending. That last scene got me, bro. I think it's maybe because I started driving. And sorry for those of you who haven't seen it. It's not really a spoiler. It doesn't really spoil anything. But the main character says in the last little bit, it's not even a monologue. It's like 3 sentences. But one of the sentences is, "Mom, do you remember did you get emotional the first time you drove in Sacramento?" And I hadn't started driving at 17. At 18 when I watched this movie for the first time. I hadn't really driven around my hometown or my home area, the South Bay. But I think now, having driven a lot more, having been in a car and driven through those roads, and the way just the shots go together, and it talks about like the emotion behind driving through your hometown for the first time, it captures that moment so beautifully. That ending is just, like I love it. And I'm not gonna lie to you, like the first time I drove through Cupertino, which is where I grew up in Northern California, it was a little emotional. Like it was a little cool. And and it's because you've been on those roads your whole life, but this is the first time you're driving on it. I'm curious to see like what people think. Like, were they emotional when they drove through their hometowns for the first time? Like, is that just a me thing? Like, I don't know what it was, but I just related to that moment so heavily that it just made a lot of sense. And also, I saw a lot of myself within this character of Lady Bird, who is a very I thought was super unlikable my senior year of high school. But the more I distanced myself from that time in my life, the more I realized I was a lot like her, a lot more than I would have probably liked to think at the time. And yeah, I mean, that's the truth. I was a lot like Lady Bird in high school. Yeah, but the point is, this movie is definitely worth a second watch. I understand it's not for everybody. This is definitely not a movie for every single person out there. But if you are open to giving things a second chance, like I got lucky to give this movie a second chance, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'm going to say this to all of you. I highly recommend this movie if you want to I highly recommend this movie for the first time, for the second time, for the third time. I think it's a great movie, and I'm here to apologize to Greta Gerwig. So I'm gonna look right in the camera right now, and I'm gonna look at you, Greta, because I know you're watching this. I know you're one of the 10 viewers that watches the Changavi show. I'm sorry, Greta Gerwig, for calling you all sorts of mean names in 2018 when you got nominated for Oscars for this film, because I thought this film was absolute garbage. I am here to realize, and I'm here to tell you right now, and I'm telling you into the mic and looking at you, this was a huge mistake. I shouldn't have said those things. I shouldn't have called you mean names, and I shouldn't have said that you were a bad director. You are a great director. I haven't checked out your other stuff, I'm not going to lie to you, but this movie was awesome, and Saoirse Ronan and Laurie Metcalf killed it. And I think your direction and the way you highlighted the city of Sacramento made me want to root for Sacramento, which is something I never thought I would want to root for in my life. So I'm sorry, Greta. I'm sorry. And that concludes that segment. But on to our second segment, which kind of relates to sports a little bit, but it is kind of pop culture because of the sensationalism that this headline has received. Sha'Carri Richardson and Mary Jane. This has been a topic that has been hot the last week. This literally, I think this happened the day that the first episode of the Changavi show came out, and I was like, damn it, I wish I talked about this on this episode, but I didn't. But here I am talking about Sha'Carri Richardson and marijuana. For those of you that don't know, which is probably about one person in the United States right now, probably, Sha'Carri Richardson is an Olympic athlete. or not an Olympic athlete, an athlete that was competing at the U.S. Olympic trials about a month ago. She qualified for a couple of events in track and field, I believe the relay and the 100-meter, if I'm not mistaken, and recently was met with a failed drug test for marijuana. And basically was told by the Olympic Committee, you can't compete in Tokyo because you smoked pot a month ago. Okay. Here's what I think about this. There's been a lot of conflicting opinions on this topic. A lot of people are like, what the fuck? This is stupid. A lot of people are like, you should have followed the rules. Like, here's what I'm going to say. I kind of lie somewhere in the middle. I get both sides of both arguments. I 100% understand the side that Sha'Carri is on and that all of the athletes who are supporting Sha'Carri are on and all the people. Bruh, it's fucking pot. Okay, we're in 2021. The reason she used the pot was the same way and the same reason that people use fucking alcohol today, to drink when something shitty happens in your life. Okay, she had just lost her biological mother. I don't know what happened, what the situation was. She doesn't really have to give us that information. That's not like, she can live her own life. It's her life. She doesn't need to share everything. But she lost her biological mother, and she smoked a joint, or hit a bong, or whatever it was. She smoked pot. Okay, dude. Pot needs to be recognized. I think this is such an indictment on people that marijuana is not looked at like alcohol. They're the same thing, in my opinion. They're really the same thing, because alcohol is, it's so widely accepted by society to take the edge off and have a drink when something isn't going your way. But if you smoke a joint, no, you can't go to the Olympics. I don't understand that. That is something I genuinely don't understand. But here's the flip side of the argument. She should have been a better decision maker. She should have known the rules. The rules are the rules. As the president of the United States said, which is ironic because he does support the legalization of marijuana federally, he says, quote, rules are the rules. Everybody knows what the rules are going in. I get it. I get that side of the argument completely. I understand where people are coming from when they're saying Sha'Carri should have known the rules and maybe shouldn't have smoked marijuana. But I also tend to look at the other side of the argument where I'm like, dude, she lost her mom. I would like to see what you would have done if someone had told you you can't compete in the Olympics because of one joint you smoked, not related to athletic competition, not to perform better, because I feel like weed would make you perform worse almost in an athletic competition, but to help take the stress off the loss of your dead mom. And honestly, I think there are a lot of people that smoke to cope, to chill out a little bit. She had gotten out of a stressful situation with the Olympic trials. She lost her mom. There's a lot going on. If there's a couple puffs here and there, I don't realize why the Olympic Committee cares so much. But I also realize this. The Olympics is an international federation. Internationally, marijuana is not looked at the same way it is looked at in the United States. We are progressive when it comes to marijuana, not the rest of the world. The rest of the world still thinks marijuana is equivalent to crack cocaine when it comes to drugs. A lot of third world countries at least do. And the point, in the Philippines, Duterte is literally killing people for using marijuana. That's how bad it is. And to think that the Olympics is an international federation and marijuana to them is still a drug and is still illegal. So that makes sense. I do get where they're coming from. Internationally, it's not looked at the same as nationally. But I wish that the United States had at least thrown a little bit of support behind Sha'Carri, especially the president of the United States, who I thought pathetically, that's a very pathetic quote in my opinion. I think as someone who is a quote-unquote supporter of legalization of marijuana, according to his campaign policy, he should be someone who steps up and says, hey, internationally, it may not be accepted, but here in the United States, we support Sha'Carri, and we would like her to be on the team, rather than saying rules are the rules. Come on, Joe. Come on. But Sha'Carri, I'm 100% on your side. I think it's super stupid that you aren't competing in the Olympics. I actually looked up your stats, and you are one of the better sprinters in America. I didn't really know, to be honest. But I did go back and watch your races, and you are very talented. You're only 21, so you have a lot of time. At least I hope. I wish for you a long career where you can go to many more Olympics and win some gold medals for the United States. And yeah, that's honestly it, Sha'Carri. So thank you. Not thank you. No, but thank you, Sha'Carri, for bringing marijuana to the forefront. Maybe this will cause an international discussion and conversation on how marijuana is looked at versus alcohol. I think this is going to be really interesting coming up in the future. And I think long term, I hope that marijuana is looked at in the same light as alcohol internationally, although there will probably be corners of the world where 100 years from now, marijuana will still be considered a crime. But that's just kind of how our society works. It's weird. To transition to this, we're getting into news and politics. We just got done with our two pop culture topics, Greta Gerwig and Sha'Carri Richardson and pot. Let's get into this. Our politics topic this week is titled Long Live the King. And honestly, for the politics topic this week, I was thinking about talking about the news and politics topic. I was thinking about talking about the Florida condo collapse and what happened and why it's such an over-sensationalized headline. But I looked at it and I was like, this is too fucking boring. It's literally a building collapsing. I know that sounds super insensitive, and I'm going to say this right now. I deeply sympathize with the people that lost loved ones in this condo collapse. But in terms of a headline and in terms of looking into it, it's a lot about structural damage and architecture. And it's not really something that I can have fun with and really, be able to dig my teeth into. But last night, there was a huge political assassination that took place, not in this country, but maybe about 1,700 miles away from Miami, Florida. And that was in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. The Haitian president last night is Tuesday night, but this will come out on Friday night. So a few nights ago, the Haitian president was assassinated. His name is Jovenel Moise, and him and his wife were shot. His wife is currently in critical condition. I believe Mr. Moise, the president of Haiti, has been pronounced dead. And this is huge for a couple things. And I'm going to get into the facts real quick. So let me just go through the facts. So Jovenel Moise and his wife, Maritine, were both shot. Maritine is in critical condition, and they're currently thinking about transporting her to Miami for medical care. Jovenel is dead. Rest in peace. Haiti has a president and a prime minister. And Moise had basically, literally the day before, on Monday, had made a recent nomination of Ariel Henry as the prime minister of Haiti. And Ariel Henry is a neurosurgeon. The Supreme Court Chief Justice, who would have probably been the backup to Moise for the president of Haiti, died last month of COVID, and he could have potentially brought more structure. There is now a new interim president. His name is Claude Joseph, and he's kind of taken over this interim role as prime minister, as president / prime minister, and he's calling for unity. Haiti, by far, is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. It's a third world country. For those of you that don't know, it's an island in the Caribbean. It shares kind of the same island space as the Dominican Republic. And the assassination was disguised as a DEA routine check-in by, basically what the people who assassinated Moise said to him to get into the residence were that they were U.S. drug enforcement officers, and they basically used that as their cover-up. But in terms of Moise, he wasn't exactly the most wasn't exactly the most well-liked person within Haiti. There had been a lot of calls from the nation, from Haitian people, for the president to resign. And so there is a clear motive as to he was disliked, and he did have a long list of enemies. And And before he became prime minister, he was a successful banana exporter that turned into a political figure. So those are the quick facts. Here's my take. I'm going to make this real quick. This is a third world country that lost a leader. And it's sad every time that a third world country does lose a leader, because as history shows, if you do not have a strong elected government in office, it leads to a lot of rioting and it leads to a spike in violence and in just overall unhappiness amongst the people. And unfortunately, I think we're going to see more of this in Haiti. I feel like since 2010, when the earthquake hit, or was it 2011 when the big earthquake hit Haiti that really destroyed their nation's infrastructure? And if you look at the capital city of Port-au-Prince, it's not been the same. They've still been trying to recover from that. And I feel like as they were getting on their feet from the earthquake, another hurricane hit them hard. And, now with COVID and the pandemic, it's just spiked more issues. And this is a country that's just been hit after hit after hit. And it sucks. It sucks to see that they've lost their elected leader. And listen, Haiti's is a small country in the long term, right? In the macro, this is not a huge deal when it comes to world politics. And that's not to say that, this was a political assassination. Of course, this is a fucking huge deal. And Joe Biden commented on it and he said this was an atrocity and this was horrible, as he should. But what is the future here? I mean, I think Haiti it's destined for kind of a similar lifespan as Afghanistan has had. I feel like every single time Afghanistan has gotten an elected leader in office, it's turned into a whole thing. I mean, you look at Afghanistan, you look at Pakistan, you see that they've gotten, and I'm comparing this to Asia because I know Asia a little bit better than than the Caribbean. Every time they've gotten an elected leader in power and he or she has been assassinated, in the case of Pakistan, Bhutto, it's turned into a hot mess. And it turns into civilians rioting and the government not being able to form fast enough and unify the country. And I feel like Haiti is destined for the same thing now. You lose a strong elected leader. This was someone who had been accused for corruption and a lot of things. He'd been accused of a lot of shit that I didn't necessarily get into as deeply as I should have. But he, at the end of the day, was a leader that was keeping the country together. And the Haitian police apparently has been absolutely horrifically dealing with the increased violence and the increased crime rates in Port-au-Prince and amongst the whole country itself. It's just been an overall disaster zone, and especially getting hit with two natural disasters and a pandemic in the last decade, this country is struggling to get back on its feet. And to lose an elected leader, to lose someone who could potentially unify the country and take you from just the bottom of the barrel to at least like stability. I mean, to have some sort of stability within the country, there's none of that. And so I think this is just a really just a sad time for the Haitian people. This is a sad time for the Haitian government potentially, because we don't know what's going to happen there. And it's just an unstable time to be a Haitian. And that's sad. And it's really sad to hear that because of all of the stuff that's going on. And particularly when a third world country loses a leader like that, it's not going to end well, is what I mean to say. And I think that's my take on this whole situation. And lastly, I just want to mention that Jovenel Moise, regardless of the bullshit that he may have done, and I'm sure a lot more people who are more well-versed within Haitian politics are probably going to shit on me for this take. But he is a human being. Him and his wife are both humans. One of them is dead. The other one is in critical condition. And I think that regardless of who they are, as long as he's not Adolf Hitler, which I don't think he is, he should be, it's a loss of a human life. And that's nothing to, that's something to be sad about for sure. And that's all I have to say. Just be aware. I mean, this is something that I thought I should make aware of the Haitian presidential assassination. This is a huge deal within international politics, and not necessarily something that's going to be talked about in America a whole lot. So maybe a potential storyline to keep in mind. I'm going to keep following this as it goes on. It's definitely a really interesting thing because I think assassinations, when they do happen, have impacts on the region that they happen in. And this is well in the Western Hemisphere where we live. So it's going to be interesting. And we just crossed 40 minutes. So that means Anuj is going to be doing push-ups on Instagram. Last topic of the day, my miscellaneous topic, and this is going to be called the Adam Levine story. For those of you that know and that watched last week, I did a segment on Adam Levine and his latest album that he had released called Jordy with Maroon 5. I did not like the album, and I made my thoughts very, very clear to the people that I was not a fan of Adam Levine and his album and his recent album. And I said things like he had peaked and that the genre had peaked and that it was, headed towards mediocrity, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. There's more to the story. I released that clip as like a teaser to the show, right? I put it up on my Instagram story. I said, go check out this clip if you guys want to see like what the show's going to be all about, that type of thing. I put up the clip on Instagram. And I come back to check it like 25, 30 minutes later. I think I went to the shower or something. It was like 10:30 at night. I literally like opened my phone. I go to Instagram. I'm like, oh, who viewed my story? The same normal people, blah, blah, blah. And then at the bottom of the list, I see a blue check and the Instagram says Adam Levine. And I'm like, no fucking way. No fucking way it's Adam Levine. I click on it, 13.3 million followers. I click on some of the posts. It's the real fucking Adam Levine. Adam Levine saw my story of me basically telling him to go fucking retire. Adam Levine saw that. And honestly, how do I feel about it? I felt shitty at first. I was like, God damn it. Adam Levine's going to cancel me. My career in podcasting is over. This is it. I'm done. But honestly, the more and more I think about it, I mean, I'm glad I put my opinions out there. I thought I was as respectful as I can. I was respectful. Literally in the previous like story before, I was talking about like how he had released one of the greatest pop albums of all time. And I DM'd him. I DM'd him after he saw the story. I was like, hey, Adam, I know you saw part of it, but there's more to the story, blah, blah, blah. I was basically like, let's hash this out on the pod. Let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation and be civil and be two human beings that can squash their internet beef. And he hasn't responded. And so that'll be the end of the story for now. But yes, the Adam Levine story is that he looked at my story and did not respond to my direct message that I sent him. But it's a cool little flex to have. Adam Levine has seen the Changavi show, at least a part of it. So you can tell all your friends that Adam Levine has seen me in this room talking shit about him. So, and I'm probably hated in Hollywood because, he told all his friends and now none of them are going to come on the podcast. So this is my biggest claim to fame and I'm going to just, fucking munch on it as long as I can. But that's all I have today. That was the last topic of the whole show. For real, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the Changavi show of me sitting down. I know I'm not standing, but it's late at night and I'm too fucking lazy. So I don't want to do that. But thank you so much. I hope you guys learned something today. I hope this was a fun show. I know we talked about a lot about some sad shit, the Haitian president and all of that stuff that's going on there. But I hope this was fun. I had so much fun researching and talking to you guys about what I'm feeling, what I'm, thinking about all of these things. So I hope this was a cool show for you. I know it went above 40 minutes, so that means 20 push-ups coming up on Instagram soon. And I'm going to cry doing them, and you guys are going to have to see me do them. So that's going to suck for you. But I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're there. If you're on Spotify, go ahead and follow me. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, leave me feedback, email me, DM me, text me if you have my phone number. I'm not giving my phone number out for those of you that want it. But that's all I have. Thank you so much for listening, guys. Have a great weekend. And I'll see you back next week for episode 3 of the Changavi show. Peace.